John, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Subway. You've been making a lot of big changes since you took over as CEO 3 years ago, and the most noticeable difference is the menu. Tell us about that, why it's been popular with your customers, and it's been good for business too.
Yeah, so like any new team, when you show up at a new company, we went out and we did a lot of consumer-based research. And our consumers told us three things. One, they told us we hadn't had enough menu innovation over the past few years. They told us they wanted more craveable food. They told us they thought some of our ingredients had slipped in terms of quality. And then funnily enough, our franchisees told us the same thing. So when you hear the same message from your guest and your franchisees, it's pretty clear your roadmap of where you need to go. And so it's a multi-year journey. And last year we launched something called Eat Fresh Refresh, which was last summer, where we introduced new bread, new proteins, new sauces, improved quality in other proteins. So it was really just a whole revamp of the menu, if you will. And that really I think the brand reignited, got people excited about the brand to see those changes.
And now add to that, you just announced a new menu change that you're calling the Subway series, 12 new sandwiches. And I understand that this is the most significant menu update in Subway's 60-year history. How important is this to your turnaround strategy for Subway?
You know, it's very important for many reasons. But before I go to that, I just want to assure people that if you want to customize your sandwich, that's something Subway's been known for forever. You can clearly continue to custom make your sandwich if that's what you want. But these 12 sandwiches, which are all chef-inspired subs, not only are they delicious, but I think it's important because it hits the crave factor much more so potentially than what you make on your own. But more importantly, even than that, is sort of in the world of third-party delivery, more and more people ordering digitally. I think it's important that you can literally go onto your app and you can order a number 8, or you could call it the boss by name or by number. I just think that's going to become more and more important as the world moves more towards third-party delivery again and digital ordering on the apps.
Well, you know, John, people are surprised when they hear that Subway has more locations than any restaurant chain in the U.S., 20,000 stores. That's more than McDonald's. It's more than Burger King and Taco Bell combined. But despite all that big size, sales were declining before you came on board. How's it going now?
Well, sales have been going great. When we exited 2021, our sales, our average unit volumes, if you will, were back to where they were in 2014. And through the first 6 months of this year, we're actually back to where we were in 2012. So we've picked up a lot of ground in terms of average unit volume. Through the first 6 months of the year, our sales are up against 2019, definitely up against 2021. But even if you go back and compare against 2019, mid to high single digits. And if you look at the top 75% of our system, which would be a system larger than McDonald's, they're actually up 15% in the first 6 months of the year. So I would consider sales very robust, and most importantly of all, franchisees are very happy about where sales are today.
Well, the economy is not being much help. Looking at the latest inflation report, June consumer prices surged 9%. Is that going to slow down your momentum?
No, I don't think so. If you look at our value for the money ratings vis-a-vis our competition, other sandwich competitors, we've had a considerably lower average check than they have. I think it's easier for us to pass on food costs than it is for some of our higher price competitors out there.
I know that Subway is privately held, but can you give us some idea for our viewers to know how big are the revenues at Subway overall?
Yeah, in the U.S., they're about 9 to 10 billion. Globally, they're closer to 16 billion. So you said we're the largest restaurant chain in the U.S., which is true, but we're also the largest in the world. We have about 17,000 restaurants outside the U.S. and growing. So in total, it's about 16 billion.
Let's take a look outside the U.S. because I understand that you have some big expansion plans in the works. Tell us about that.
We have about 17,000 restaurants in about 100 countries. If you look at the 6 really global QSRs out there, we're the only one, when I say QSR, quick service restaurants, we're the only one that is larger in the U.S. than outside. Everybody else is larger outside. So we have a tremendous opportunity to grow units outside the U.S. So just in the last 6 to 12 months, we've signed 8 to 9 master development agreements for about 6,000 restaurants in the Middle East, in Europe, in Asia. Next week, we expect to sign a restaurant deal in Turkey for another 650 restaurants. And we're working on many, many more deals across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East.
How much bigger do you want to get?
Well, if you just use a proxy of sort of the size of our competitors out there on a global basis, most of them are anywhere from 2 to 3 to 1 is the ratio. So if we have 20,000 restaurants in the U.S., I don't know why we couldn't have 40,000 outside the U.S. So if we're at 17,000 today, I mean, I think easily there's room to double our international footprint over the next decade.
So is it possible that the global operations will be much larger than what you have currently in the US? Is that the goal?
Yes, that is absolutely the goal. That happened to me in a previous life where I ran a quick service restaurant that was exactly the same as Subway. And today it's 2 to 3 times larger outside the US than in the US. So I know the playbook, and I think it's imminently doable here.
John, it's interesting that in most of Subway's 60-year history, it was run by its founder, Fred DeLuca. You are the first leader from outside the DeLuca family. Tell us what it's like to lead a privately held, family-owned company.
It's been a joy beyond belief. As someone who ran a public company, I really never had a desire to run a public company again if I could humanly avoid it. And I have to say, working for a private company which is willing to invest money for the long term, not really focused, obviously, on quarterly results, just wanting to do right by their franchisees and by their guests, it's been a wonderful experience.
Well, our viewers ought to know that for many years, you were the CEO at Burger King, and it was out of retirement that you came to join Subway. Tell us what are some of the differences.
You can really spend all of your time really internally focused because you don't have to devote time to be out on the road visiting with shareholders. You're not talking to analysts. You're not doing quarterly earnings calls. It's just allows you to be, I think, more focused on your company and less on external stakeholders, if you will. Again, not worrying about hitting quarterly numbers and doing the right thing and ensuring the business is where you want it to be 24 to 36 months down the road is a wonderful pleasure. Subway, interestingly enough, has no debt, so we don't even really have to worry about bank covenants. We're really free to invest in the business as we believe is the right thing to do.
You've also recruited many of the executives who worked with you at Burger King and to come to Subway, the chief financial officer, the head of marketing, chief legal officer, chief operating officer. Why did you bring them in? And how is this changing the structure and culture of Subway?
Well, I left Burger King 10, 11 years ago. So most of them went on to, work at places like Dunkin' Donuts and Bloomin' Brands and, Yum, all over the place, McDonald's. So obviously, when I took this job, I thought about people that I'd worked with in the past and that had great skill sets from Burger King, but also people had picked up new skills in the decade when I wasn't working with them. And so I just try to think, who are the best members of the band to put the band back together again, so to speak. And I think it's helpful when you're doing a turnaround, because obviously Subway had suffered for quite a while, to be with a group of people that you trust, you work well together, what kind of personalities you're going to get. And so to me, that was really key to this whole turnaround that we've been able to pull off here at Subway, given just our familiarity with one another.
And what did you have to do to pave the way that Subway employees were comfortable with all the changes? How did you make them feel comfortable and supportive of having this new team of executives coming in?
I would describe Subway before we got here, obviously been owned by two families, as you said, for 55, 56 years. It was a very paternalistic, not a lot of sense of urgency. I'll be honest, bloated to a certain extent. And so I think a part of it was helping them realize that, we could go faster with less people and it would be more efficient and it would be a more fun place to work. And, truthfully, there were skeptics, I think, in the beginning. We cut the workforce basically in half. And I think those that are behind now see all the benefits and would tell you it's the best thing that ever happened to the brand. But obviously the first 6 months to a year, they were very skeptical, and you have to prove to people that your model and your culture are going to be an improvement. And I think we've done that. And I think the results really speak to that cultural change.
So, John, what's your goal for Subway? How do you want people to describe Subway, let's say 3, 4, 5 years from now?
92% of Americans live within 5 miles of a Subway. So I want people to come to Subway, not just because it's right there in front of them and they have no other choice. I want people to wake up every day and think, I want a great Craveable sandwich from Subway. So I want to be a destination spot. Internationally, I want to grow the brand tremendously. And I think with all these new developments and developers that we have out there, we can grow the brand. And I would just like the brand to really reclaim, it is the largest, but I think it should have the swagger of the largest quick service restaurant chain in the world. So just getting that confidence back in our franchisees and our employees, I think that in and of itself, those 3 goals would really put us in a great spot.